Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Tuesday, April 21st, 2015. This is the Bucknuts Morning Five-ish. I'm Dan Rubin. Thanks for joining us. Got a packed show for you today. Going to talk about our only concern, or a major concern, coming out of spring practice. Obviously, things are very good with the Buckeyes, but there's always something that's bothering us. Not as easy to decipher what it is these days, but we do have one, let's not call it a weakness, one concern heading into the season we want to discuss. And we'll also be joined by Alex Gleitman, who will bring you up to speed on Micah Potter, the power forward center in the class of 2016 that committed to Ohio State yesterday out of Minster, Ohio. Another pickup for Thad Matta and co., and likely the last pickup in this class. So we appreciate your joining us. Sit back and enjoy. Even using the word concern or worry is kind of a misnomer here because let's face it, things are great. Ohio State's the king, so this is the birthmark from Nathaniel Hawthorne for you literary geeks, but I digress. Heading into spring, I had two concerns, generally speaking. One, cornerback. Two, defensive tackle. Both positions were replacing a guy that should hear his name called this draft, Duran Grant at corner, or Michael Bennett, defensive tackle. However, after watching what we could of the spring and talking to inside sources and then seeing what we did in the spring game, although that is not always the most accurate representation of what's going on, I don't really have concerns at corner anymore. Yes, Eli Apple's going to probably have some growing pains sliding into the number one role. Yes, Gary and Conley will have some growing pains being relied upon this much to start, but I was very impressed with his ability to play the ball in the air, very competitive, has the great pedigree, so I think from a physical standpoint, those guys are definitely ready. It's going to take maybe some small growing pains, as I said, but I wouldn't say that's a concern. And I don't think anyone will be surprised that my chief concern is defensive tackle next to Adolphus Washington. We can probably expect Tommy Shutt to start, play a lot of minutes there. Donovan Munger has also looked impressive. Joel Hale, we'll see what he does. My concern there is, listen, replacing someone like Michael Bennett is never going to be easy. It's not a one-for-one replacement. You're going to have a committee make up for what he did anyway. The word coming out of camp has been kind of non-plus staff in terms of the position. Guys like Michael Hill, who is a freshman, I thought looked like he had a real bright future in Columbus, just haven't panned out as yet. That doesn't mean they won't pan out. Some guys need the sniff of real playing time to be motivated. But given the fact that Adolphus Washington has had some injury concerns throughout his career, and he's the other starting defensive tackle, I think what we're going to see this year is a giant committee approach to that spot. And I would not be surprised if on obvious passing downs we see a rotation of guys slide from outside inside to rush the passer. Because while there's a dearth of guys at defensive tackle that we're super comfortable with, it seems that defensive end, with the emergence of Tyquan Lewis and Sam Hubbard and Jalen Holmes, etc., Darius Slade, we seem to have a glut at that position. So could we see Joey Bosa slide inside? Sure, let's hope that's a matchup deal where they're moving Bosa around to abuse the weakest link. Yes, this team will not look the same up front on defense as they did last year. I said this heading into the national championship game, and I really believe one of the reasons Ohio State was so effective against Oregon is that Oregon had traditionally taken advantage of teams that needed to sub on the defensive line to stay active, and they would wear you down and attack your lesser talented players. Ohio State was so used to playing their front four last year, they didn't come off the field. They ended up abusing the Oregon offensive line and showing they had the endurance to stick it out. So while it will be more of a different approach this year, I do trust in Chris Ash that the effectiveness will be similar. Really got to hope Adolphus Washington stays healthy. That's an underlying key to the season. Otherwise, we're going to have to see some very young players or very inexperienced players thrust into some seriously major roles. Hang on now and listen to what Alex Gleitman has to say about the newest member of Thad Matta's crew, Micah Potter.
Ohio State landed Mentor, Ohio big man Micah Potter yesterday, the second addition to their class of 2016 on the hoops front. Potter joins Derek Funderburk, who's another bigger player. Funderburk's, standing at about 6'9", 230 pounds right now. He's expected to kind of play that stretch 4, maybe a little bit of a 3, be kind of more of an inside-out type guy, while Potter at 6'10", approaching 250 pounds, is really going to be a true center. But the thing with Potter is he can move around a little bit. Think Frank Kaminsky. He could run the floor. He could shoot from the outside. He's really going to give Thad Matta and their staff a lot of flexibility. And one thing Potter talked about is how Ohio State hasn't been able to put two bigs on the floor at the same time. And you look at the last couple of years, and it's either been Amir Williams or Trey McDonald. And at times, even last year, a couple of years ago with Deshaun Thomas playing the 5 big, Q Ross playing the 5. and going with a small lineup, and they did it a couple times this year with Jayshawn Tate. So I think having, two bigs in the class of 2016, as well as a guy like Daniel Giddens and Trevor Thompson coming out of transfer next year, it's really going to give Thad Matta a lot of flexibility in the class, give him kind of talent level at the 4 and 5 positions that he hasn't really had since Jared Solinger or even Deshaun Thomas departed Columbus. So I'm expecting big things for Ohio State next year with the class they have coming in. I think they're going to be a talented team, definitely a top 25 team. I could see them maybe, being somewhere between a 4 and 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. Maybe, getting back to that Sweet 16 for the first time in 3 years. But I think the year after 2016, when you have the class of 2015 as sophomores, some of those veterans like Jayshawn Tate and that class, Keita Bates-Diop, being juniors, and then you have Potter and Thunderberg and potentially another player like a Seth Towns on the wing coming in. I think that's going to be a potential Final Four team. And speaking of Towns and some of the other players left on the board in 2016, right now Ohio State's done. They told Potter it was 2 spots. He took the 2nd spot. Obviously, things can happen. People could transfer. People could leave early for the NBA or Europe or whatever that may be. Jaquan Lyle might be one of those players that is a candidate for that. Trevor Thompson, I'm told, has the skill. I don't know if he could put it all together mentally to be able to do that. But there is a possibility the Buckeyes add a 3rd player in the class, and I think Seth Towns out of Columbus Northland would be an excellent addition for that spot.